next now.
For the third time, a school voucher bill is up for consideration at the Nebraska State Capitol.
First Alert 6's Philip Katafamo shares what's different this time around.
LB 509 is similar to two previous pieces of legislation, LB 753 and then LB 1402, which voters rejected in November. If this latest version passes, donors would receive a tax break for contributing to scholarship granting organizations. Those organizations would then provide the scholarships under a priority tier system similar to LB 753.
The system prioritizes the lowest income students and works with middle income families. And aside, under the $10 million of educational scholarship programs awarded, over 80% of those funds were to families below the 213% of federal poverty line. As well, it requires that scholarships on average be limited to 75% of pupil spending in public schools, not 100%.
The bill would initially cap annual tax credits at $25 million through 2028. After that, the limit could be increased, each up to a maximum of $100 million.
Nebraska is set to become the last state in the country. North Dakota will soon ratify and become the 49th state without a robust school choice policy. In many ways, it's still 1968 in the state of Nebraska, and I hope to change that.
Christina Quala spoke in support of LB 509. Her daughters attend private schools after previously qualifying for an educational scholarship. She says they're thriving at their new schools.
I've read LB 509 and I am confident that it doesn't take away from our public school family. Instead, it is helping to right a social injustice by removing the financial barrier for families like mine who can't afford to give their children the educational environment that they need.
Opponents have concerns it could become expensive quickly, adding to Nebraska's $432 million budget shortfall.
This type of program is basically introducing a new spending program through the tax code at a time when the legislature is trying to fill that hole in the budget and balance the budget.
Dr. Firestone also points to other states like Arizona that are dealing with a growing budget shortfall, which she attributes to their private school voucher program. At a committee hearing Thursday, Lincoln resident Jean McGuire spoke against LB 509. She says she has relatives who send their children to private school and are also opposed to the bill.
They believe, as I do, that public dollars should not go to private schools. I mean, they are able to do this. It's their decision, but they strongly believe in public schools as well.
LB 509 still has a ways to go before it could be law. It must first make it out of committee and then to the Unicam floor for debate. In Omaha, I'm Philip Katafamo, First Alert 6.
The Nebraska Catholic Conference issued a statement today in support of LB 509. At the hearing today, Omaha and Lincoln Public Schools spoke in opposition. Statements from all three can be found with this story on FirstAlert6.com.